Hi, everyone. This is Raj Gavurla for Facebook Live, all about life. Today, we will talk about the paragon model of mine, which I call the forward performance pyramid or the winning mental pyramid. And at the top of the pyramid, there's four sections, but at the top, there's a section, and that's your intrinsic relationship between your motivation and inspiration. And a lot of people try to put motivation by itself as a standalone, or they put inspiration by itself as a standalone. Both will work, but in order to have what I say, the drive as well as the staying power, it's your intrinsic relationship between motivation and inspiration that continues to move you forward towards your greatest dreams, your vision, your mission, your clear goals, and your aspirations, and towards achievement and accomplishments. And so it is that ability to continue to build and grow your intrinsic motivation and inspiration for whatever you do. It doesn't matter what you do, really. This tool is inclusive, or it can be used by anyone, or it can be used even if you want to look at an entity or a team and the name of the team, and then you want to figure out what, as a team, your intrinsic motivation and inspiration is. So it's really what is of high value. So whatever you're doing right now, what is it that you're doing? When I look at it or observe it objectively, I can say, well, they're working as, pick a title, an executive, an owner, a manager, a team leader, a employee, a colleague, a staffer, whatever it may be, doing a specific skill or a specific role with specific responsibilities, right? Yes, objectively, there's no argument there. That is what a person is doing. But it's what your intrinsic motivation and the relationship between your intrinsic motivation and inspiration is that greater purpose of really why and what keeps you there with staying power, and determines to a large extent the amount of fulfillment you're receiving from what you're doing because of this greater purpose, the whether or not you are making progress, because by making progress, that's really what makes you feel as you're doing better and you're being the best. And as you do that, then things here start to create opportunities that we're not 100% sure, because there is some uncertainty. So in life itself, there's a lot of uncertainty, correct? We have loved ones in our lives, we have family, we have friends, we have people who we never knew, and now we do. And then we have people at work, and we have all types of people that are in our lives or come into our lives. And then a lot of them, sometimes they are going towards whatever it is that they're wanting to achieve and accomplish, and you're going towards what you're wanting to achieve and accomplish. And so today, I really want to focus on that top triangle. So your intrinsic motivation, relationship between your motivation and inspiration. Think of this example. You're sitting at the kitchen table, or you're sitting with a group of people, small group. And let's say someone went somewhere. For whatever reason, people are, it depends a little bit on the relationship, but although you may have known each other for a long time, you're always discovering and learning things about each other. But the only way you can really do that, and the only way that you can really begin to start to understand to a greater level, to listen at a greater level, what that person's intrinsic relationship between their motivation and inspiration is. And you'll never really know that, because everybody's motivated and inspired by different things in different ways. And there's just little fine granular items that they're just not explainable. You know when it happens, you feel it, you sense it, you believe it, all of those things, you think it, but it's just not explainable. And so one of the areas that I find in life that a lot of people do is they seek avoidance. And seeking avoidance is when you're with a group of people and no one says anything, and you just quietly eat or you quietly work. And there really isn't an elephant in the room. It just so happens that everybody's content with where they are and what they're doing. And, you know, the objective is doing this work or doing this responsibility or partaking in this meal. However, if you are doing that, think about what you can interject into this opportunity when it's appropriate. We want to be a posit. So when it's appropriate, we want to think about what can we interject with simply the right question. So I had a teacher of mine who one time said, my kids would go to these camps and they'd come back and I'd ask them, you know, tell me about the camp. You know, what happened? And they would basically say, nothing. So she finally said, well, it's got to be something happening. I mean, you're gone 2 to 3 days. Something's got to have happened. So she decided to become a volunteer and she would go on the camp with them. And when she came back, she was amazed at all the things that happened. So what she did is she educated, she taught her kids how to be able to answer that question in a way that it would be important for the other person. So identifying what that common goal would be that we both can go towards. It's a shared common goal. And of course, it takes a little bit of understanding and research about each other, but not a lot. You know the purpose of why you're at work. You know the purpose of why you're eating dinner with these specific people. You know the purpose, etc. But then to find that little sliver of something that can make that purpose a common goal within that purpose that both people have, that's forward this way. Not this way backwards, but that's going to take both people forward. And that common goal is very, very important. And you can do this with adults as well. I know that sometimes when I'm eating dinner with family, it seems that no one has a lot to say. And I've really learned, though, because a large part is because of what I do, and I am very intentional on doing this, because I find that people just open up and you learn and explore and understand to a greater extent so much more about a person. You can know this person almost all your life or all your life. It really doesn't matter. There's just such a rich reservoir of what you can learn from each other. It really is amazing. And so it always, for me, starts with asking just the right question. A question, and how I ask it, the way I ask it, the way I make them feel will determine the amount of openness and their willingness to really interact and engage in being a part of the conversation. And I have done this with people who you might think are very vocal, or you might think they're very quiet, or you might think, no way, they would never, ever talk about that. Or no, you just don't know. He's not. And the thing is what happens is we put, sometimes when we avoid, put these stories or these obstacles in our mind of what that person will do or say. And they're doing the same thing. And it's there, it's a protective mechanism, but it's there really to tell you this one thing and one thing only: to really pre-formulate your question. And it's very important you use the right diction. So pre-formulate your question. So some people say the platitude is think before you say, but I'm giving you a better tip, is to pre-formulate the question. In your mind, just ask the question silently. And after a while, you'll become better. And the reason you ask the question silently is so that you can get used to doing that. And the more you do that, the quicker you will be able to, or the better, and the more, with more power, precision, and style, you'll be able to ask the right question to where you won't put the other person on the defensive or on make them feel offended or anything. And you can almost ask them anything. It just depends on how you ask the right question. Your pre-formulated question, your diction, okay? And that's what's essential, and that's what will get that avoidance in everyone out, and you will see just a huge difference in a person who you just never really thought they had that in them. It's just a wonder. I'll give you another example. It's almost like you talking with someone and you're doing certain activities, and for whatever reason, they just whoosh, brighten up when they do that one activity. And of course, in your mind, you're thinking, wow, yes, that's what they really like. You know, they're smiling, their energy's up, you know, look at you. And, you know, people say that to me all the time. They're like, Raj, you know, when you're at an event, you should just see yourself. You're almost like glowing, because it just does something for me that way. However, they're doing it basically reading a lot of things and looking at my demeanor and the way that I'm approaching my physiology, all of that. I understand that. However, there are several things where I'm not like that. However, there's a reason I'm not like that, because probably one is that it's really not it's not something I'm used to. Like, I'm used to going to events. I'm used to talking to people. I'm used to focusing on others to help them or to work with them or to serve them, whatever it may be. I'm used to that. So obviously I gravitate towards that. And that's part of who I am, or I've become that more and more. I used to not be like that. However, at one time, I would say that I was probably almost at that stage of avoiding that, not physically, but just from the participation, from the involvement, from the engagement side. And I had to learn to navigate and become that way. However, there are items, just like that item, that I don't do as regularly. But just because I don't have the same physiology, the same radiance, glow, whatever you want to say, my eyes, all of that aren't the same, it just really means that in my mind, something's there saying, caution, this is a new territory for you. Someone's asked you a question that you're going to need to think about this, and you might need to even like buy some time or ask them the question just to get a clarification on their purpose or whatever. But when they ask me the pre-formulated right question, then I can see that they have done a little bit of research, however they're doing it. And I'm not talking about getting an iPad out and Googling and researching me. But whatever that research is, and they've pre-formulated a question that they've asked, and they've asked it the right way to where it's as if it's a common goal we're both going towards. And we know that together, regardless of what happens, we're going to continue to go forward and we will grow as a person, each one of us individually, and grow as a person, each one of us collectively. Now, here's the catch. You do this once. Don't think that this person is just going to all of a sudden be open with you and not be looking like avoidance. No, this is one of those things that it doesn't matter how open a person's been for you and how many years they've been like that with you. This is a skill, a deliberate or diligent skill to hone, to really, really hone. Diligent skill so that you can really use this over and over and over again. And just like your intrinsic relationship between your motivation, inspiration, you build and you grow that based on the situation, you're going to build and grow this skill. And every situation is going to be different. And it's going to be the quality of you asking the right question and how you make them feel and being able to do it in a way that you and they feel. You both need to feel it, that you're both going towards a common goal. That's what I have for you today. I hope you have a meaningful trigger tonight. I do. I'm in a spiritual book club, and I have a very important discussion tonight because the author's conclusions, I basically have thought that all my life, and it's just amazing that just now he's writing this conclusion, and I'm very interested in what my fellow book clubbers are thinking of this, because this is a spiritual book club. And I've just always thought this, but I've never heard it said this way. And I think that according to one of my book clubbers, who is a scholar on religion, he says that a lot of people are just misinformed. And so they hear bits and pieces, yet they have not really, not necessarily done their research, but they haven't really thought through the implications of what they're hearing and what it really means. And for them to have a greater meaning, a greater understanding of it, their ability to ask the right question, to be able to identify that common goal with other people to go forward, would be so much greater than the response of avoidance. And this avoidance can be with people you've known all your life. It doesn't really matter. And so this, again, is not the elephant in the room. Everybody knows when there's an elephant in the room. That's not what this is. This is just simply a diligent skill by asking the right question for you to actually engage and become much greater in your understanding, in your learning, in your listening, in the meaning, and even in the greater purpose by establishing a common goal. And so tonight, I'm really will attend with that objective in mind. So I will be doing a lot of asking the right question, because this is a subject that's, or a topic that's very important. And I'm sure everyone has what they've heard about it. But collectively, for us to have that common goal and move forward, which we always do, that's why we're in a spiritual book club. It'll be interesting to what people will say, because we never argue. Not argue in the sense like a conflict argument or a combative argument. Now, we do have different perspectives, but we don't ever get into any type of verbal yelling or arguing or all the things that might keep someone in avoidance. And the reason is because we know how to ask the right quality questions. And we know how to, before we say something, to think through it in the way that we're identifying a common goal for both people. And this common goal is just learning about each other, understanding each other greater. Might be also understanding each other's faith greater. It might be also learning how to apply something from someone's faith to their faith. I mean, there's a lot of different reasons that people are attending this for their intrinsic motivation or relationship between their motivation and inspiration. And we all don't really know what it is. I mean, we can say what it is, but it's always continuing to percolate. Always. It's never just static. It's not a steady state. It is a percolating, it's a moving type of thing. And it will always have fine granular adjustments, percolates based on the situation, based on who's in the room, based on lots of factors that we'll never, ever be able to know ahead of time and predict what will happen at the outcome. However, using that one deliberate skill that I taught you today, pre-formulate the question, the right question, ask it mentally in your mind, and you'll receive a response of whether or not it can be any better. And then when you ask it, make sure that you're asking it so that the other person thinks and feels that it's a common goal towards both of you going towards something very positive. Thank you. I see some of you at 4 o'clock to talk about your intrinsic relationship between your motivation and inspiration in experiencing intelligent breakthroughs in your sports performance and life.